For nearly 3 decades now, Pokemon has been one of the biggest franchises on the planet. In fact, it's the highest grossing entertainment franchise of all time, over $100 billion in revenue. But beyond the cards, there's a whole world of people making some serious money in the hobby. If you're new around here, my name is Max, and about 6 months ago, I set myself the challenge of turning my hobby into a business. Because let's be honest, collecting the cards is expensive. Fast forward to today, and I now co-own a Pokemon business that sold thousands of cards through streaming, conventions, and we're now just about to pick up the keys to our brick and mortar store. Now, let me be clear, this is not a video on how to flip a couple of ETBs as a side hustle. If you're looking for something like that, this video is probably not for you. This is a video for people who do care about the hobby and want to build something sustainable for them. Plus, if I can help one person put a new game shop on the map, I will be extremely happy. So I'm going to break down everything that I've learned on how to sell Pokemon cards properly, from choosing your platform to finding products, pricing them, and marketing them. This is the guide that I wish I had when I got started. So if you are new, hit subscribe and let's get into it. Now, the first thing you need to figure out before you buy a single card is where are you going to sell them? Because if I'm honest, this is easily the most important part of the process, as each platform is going to dictate what stock you go after, how long you need to spend each week, what type of customer you go after, and even how you price your products. Some platforms are super easy to get started on, and there are some others that are a little bit harder to get started on, but they do have a greater payoff over time. I've personally sold on every single one of these platforms, so I'm going to give you the pros and cons of all of them and then give you my honest opinion and recommendations. Starting with eBay. eBay is definitely one of the best places to start if you are completely new to selling Pokemon cards. They already have millions of active users constantly searching Pokemon cards every day, so you don't need to generate your own traffic like you would on some other platforms. It's super easy to sign up as a seller, and there's not really much to learn. You pretty much just list your products, wait for them to sell, package them up, and then you get paid. If you are starting with just your personal collection, it's kind of a no-brainer to start with eBay, just because you don't need to have a massive brand behind you. You can literally just list, ship, and make money. It's also worth noting as well that eBay's last sold is used as a pricing benchmark for pretty much the whole hobby. So if you do end up selling something on here, you're more than likely getting market rate for it. That being said, there are definitely some headaches with eBay. The main problem I have with eBay is that it can actually be quite a long-winded process, especially if you're running auctions. Normally, if you run an auction, for example, you can almost guarantee a sale if you set it at a low starting price, but it has to run for about 7 days. Then you have to wait for the buyer to actually pay you for it. Then you have to pack it. Then you got to ship it. Then you have to wait even longer for the payment to clear, because eBay won't pay you until the customer actually has the product in hand, which is obviously quite a big problem for cash flow. Fees are another downside as well, so you'll lose about 13% on each sale. So if you sell something for £100, eBay is instantly taking £13 off you before you factor in your shipping costs and your profit margins. It's also just quite difficult to build any sort of brand on eBay. So eBay is what I'd call a commodity platform, where all the customers are just looking for the cheapest listing for the same product. You are competing with other sellers in a sea of identical products that creates this sort of race to the bottom, especially in modern cards. Like if someone undercuts you by a couple of pounds on their listing is way more likely to sell than yours, because why would a customer buy yours for more money? And finally, arguably the worst part about the platform is just listing the products. It's not even that hard, it's just so boring. You have to take photos of everything, upload them, get the title and description right, then do your pricing research, and then list it, and then do it all over again for another card. I'm honestly at the point now where I can only really stomach 4 or 5 listings at a time before I have to take a break. Maybe that says more about me than it does the platform, but it's long. Overall, I would give eBay a 4 stars for ease of use. It is very beginner friendly, and it's very easy to get started making your first sales. For profit potential, I'd say 3 stars. It's actually fairly good. If you can secure the product at a good price, you definitely can make money here. And for scalability, I'm gonna give it a 2. Don't get me wrong, there are people that make a stupid amount of money from eBay, but personally, I think if you want to build a long-term branded business, it's probably not the way to go. Moving on to a personal favorite of mine, Whatnot. This is the platform where I make most of my money right now, and if you've never used it before, it can be a little hard to explain what it is. Think of it if like Twitch and eBay had a baby. Sellers run live shows where they sell Pokemon products, and buyers just simply swipe to purchase, and then that product gets delivered right to them. It is super simple and honestly pretty addictive. So one of the best parts about Whatnot is the live auction system. You can run bids from £1, and then everyone in the live can then bid on the product on screen. And the buyer psychology here is unlike any other platform. People will spend more impulsively when they feel like they're part of a show, so things here tend to move super quickly. If you've got a decent following on the platform, you can move a lot of products in a short amount of time. Sometimes more in an hour than you'd sell on eBay in a week. And once you do get that following, you start getting people tuning in for you, not just the products. So you get regulars that come in to chat to you, you, they support your business, and you build this little community. Payouts are super fast as well. Once you hit the instant payout criteria, you can stream one night and then expect the payment in your account the next morning. Here's the thing though, when you're first starting out, it is hard to sell on Whatnot. I can tell you now, you are not gonna jump in your first stream and start putting up big numbers. There are gonna be times where you are sat there with 3 or 4 viewers and it feels like you are talking to absolutely nobody. We were literally right there at the start of our journey too, so there were times where we would buy our own packs to open up on the show just so it looked like something was going on screen. It takes a lot of time and energy, and at the start you have to be prepared to lose a little bit of money because you're gonna need to do a lot of giveaways and you're gonna need to price things a little bit lower to actually get people in the door. That's just part of being a new seller on the platform. Some of the earlier, quieter shows as well can be quite mentally draining, but you just have to keep your energy up and it can be a lot to manage. It's worth noting as well that it's very personality driven. Like, you are the business. If you are not live, you're not making any money. So there's not really any passiveness about it, but if you put the time in, it can be so profitable. Overall, I'd give Whatnot a 3 stars for ease of use. When you figure out the platform, it is pretty easy to just hop on and get selling. It has to get a 4 stars for profit potential. I would give it a 5, but there is another one on this list and I just think it beats it out in terms of fees and stuff like that. And finally, scalability, I'm gonna give another 4 stars. You can very quickly build a strong audience here, but it's worth noting that Whatnot are always gonna own that audience as they will have all the customer data and you are only really discovered through the platform. If you wanna become a seller on Whatnot, you can click the link in my description to get yourself a very nice sign-up bonus. It's something like £150 in match sales. So when you do your first £150, they're gonna basically double it for you. So yeah, head down to the description and sign up. Next up is Shopify. And if you've ever tried your hand at anything e-commerce related before, you might think this is the obvious choice. But honestly, it is probably one of the hardest ones to start in the Pokemon space. Shopify is where you create your own standalone website, sell cards directly, and run everything through your very own brand. The obvious pros here are that you will make the most amount of money out of any of the platforms I've covered today. That's because the only fees you really pay are the credit card fees, which is something like 2%, and then the Shopify plan, which you can get as low as £25 a month. So in that same £100 sale that we talked about earlier, here's what it would look like across the board on the platforms. eBay would be £87, Whatnot roughly £89, and then Shopify would be like £97, £98. So the difference is pretty crazy. You also own all your customer data, so you can collect emails, you can build a mailing list, and you can send newsletters or product launches out to your regular buyers. Something that you can't really do with eBay and Whatnot. Plus, if you start selling in person or at events, they have this whole inventory system which links online and offline sales. It is so good. The problem itself is with the actual selling. It is so difficult marketing products and making money. Unlike Whatnot or eBay, Shopify doesn't give you any built-in traffic. You have to drive the traffic to your website yourself. And there's only really 2 ways to do that: organic marketing and paid marketing. Paid marketing can definitely get you sales if you create ads on places like Facebook or TikTok and then pay them to put the ads in front of the right people. But the margins on the Pokemon space are so tight that once you pay for your product, your Shopify fees, and the ads, you're just left with nothing. Then there's organic marketing, which is things like building a YouTube channel and promoting your business on other social media platforms, which you can then use to bring in people to your shop for free, which is a whole other thing that I'm going to talk about later. You also have to build the site, write the product pages, set up the payment gateways, shipping zones, privacy policies. It's not hard, but it's definitely just a lot more effort than listing a card on eBay and walking away. So I think this is definitely an option, but just know that it's going to be very difficult if you don't already have an audience and you don't plan on building one. You by far get the best margins here though, so don't disregard it. Overall, I would rate this one a 2 star for ease of use. It is so easy to set up a basic store, but it is a lot more difficult to make a good one. It gets a 5 star for profit potential. If you can get the people here, you can potentially make so much more money. And for scalability, I think I'm gonna have to give it a 4. There is so much you can do with a Shopify store. You can really push the branding exactly how you want, and it has all the business infrastructure that you could actually ask for. The only reason it's not a 5 is purely how long it might take to actually be profitable. Finally, we've got vending at card shows. This is where I definitely have the least experience, but we did vend for the first time a couple of months ago and it went pretty well. From what I've seen, vending has a lot of perks, and probably the biggest one is being able to buy at a percentage under market. Let's say someone trades in at 80% of market for your products. You're already making the margin before you've even sold the card again. Most card shows as well, mainly payments are taken in cash and cards, so you get the benefit of a quick cash turnaround. You also get this kind of in-person advantage that I think not a lot of people really think about. The customer can hold the product in their hand, they can inspect it themselves, and they can walk away with it in that moment, which I think just makes it easier to sell compared to online. You also meet so many other sellers, which can lead to better sourcing deals, collaborations, everything. And lastly, just walking around these shows is so good for market research. Like you can see what's selling fast, how people display their products. The main challenge with vending is that you need quite a lot of product. If you show up with a binder and a couple of slabs, you're gonna sell out very quickly, or it might just be a load of stuff that people don't want. There's also a lot of prep and logistics involved too. Like you need to bring all your stock, storage for the stock, payment systems, signage if you have it, display cases. And then at the end of the day, when you're absolutely knackered, you've got to load it all back in the car. There's also other really small things you have to factor in as well. Like the card show itself might flop. Like they might not sell as many tickets as they planned, or the weather might be bad and people might not want to turn up. You also have a limited time to actually sell. So a lot of card shows are either one day or maybe they're 2 or 3 days over a weekend. And if that doesn't go well, that is a lot of time and effort gone to waste. Also worth noting that it obviously is a very face-to-face sales environment. So if meeting people and chatting to strangers is not really something that you're into, this probably isn't for you. One thing I'd recommend is going as a buyer yourself to your first card show and just seeing how people engage with each other and how people sell. I'd rate this one 3 stars for ease of use. It is pretty easy to go and book a table and turn up, but you will need a decent amount of stock to get started, which does make it quite hard for new sellers. I'd say it's probably a 4-star for profit potential. If you have good stock and you know how to trade, it can be very profitable. And finally, 4 stars for scalability. You can only really be in one place at one time, so there is a limit to how much you can sell, but the networking potential is massive, and that opens doors to other areas like streaming, sourcing, and private deals. So now that we've found where you're gonna sell, you now need to find what you're gonna sell. This is one of the most common questions I get, whether it's over on Whatnot, on YouTube, and it probably goes without saying, but this is probably the hardest part of running your own Pokemon business, especially when you get started. It's not that the product isn't out there, it's just that it's priced so high that it's hard to make any kind of margin on it. And if you are trying to build a real business and not just flipping stuff at retail stores, finding consistent products at the right price is core to your business. So let me go over some of the main products you can sell and how you can try and get hold of them. Singles and graded cards. I normally recommend starting here when you're new because it's likely what you've already got to hand already. How I got started with my business is actually sieving through my personal collection, separating it out into cards that I was going to grade, and then selling the rest on eBay. And this was a great way to get some cash in the business early doors. And then some of the best places you can find singles and graded cards are Facebook Marketplace and groups. Because of the recent surge in popularity of Pokemon, you can actually find quite a lot of people selling their collections on Facebook. But there are a lot of overpriced listings on this platform, so the key is knowing how to spot the good ones quickly. Here are some tips that have helped me find product on Facebook. Use simple terms like Pokemon Binder or Pokemon Collection. If you get too specific, like Charizard VMAX PSA 10, you're gonna run into people that know the market and they've probably put it up for sale at way above market price anyway. You wanna try look for bundles or whole collections when you can. You'll find the best deals from people looking to offload all of their cards at once as opposed to buying individual cards, mainly because they can't be bothered to price it all and they're just looking to shift all of it at once. When you do find something, make sure you always make offers. I found a lot of people will always consider a lower price if you're taking more than one thing off them. So if someone is selling a bunch of graded cards, for example, you could offer to take all of them for a bundle discount. I'd advise only doing pickup deals too. It's so easy for people to hide fakes online. So if you actually have the product in your hand to inspect, you're way less likely to get scammed. Also, if someone is really against local collection, that's normally a bit of a red flag on this platform. And finally, ask if they have anything else for sale. 9 times out of 10, sellers on Facebook have more things that they just couldn't be bothered to list. So just ask if they've got more stock and you'll get to see it before anybody else. Next up is eBay. eBay is quite similar to Facebook Marketplace, but I have found it a little bit more tricky to find good deals, mainly because most sellers on here understand the market a little bit better. But if you do know where to look, you can find some really good deals. Firstly, search for the cards you're looking for and then filter by sold items. That shows you exactly what it actually sells for and not what people are hoping people buy it for, and that stops you from overpaying. Most listings are buy it now, but the best deals usually come from auctions. Sort by ending soonest, add a bunch to your watch list, and then try and catch the ones that are ending at weird times like 2 a.m. on a weekday. You have way more of a chance at winning these cheaper. Also, check for spelling mistakes. It's really rare, but sometimes you can catch cards with really small spelling mistakes in, or they're just super vague where it says like shiny Pokemon card. These will obviously get less watchers because they'll be harder to find, which means less competition. And finally, bundle pricing is still possible on eBay. Some sellers list multiple singles or slabs at one time, so don't be afraid to reach out and ask for a bundle deal. You'd be surprised how many people say yes just because they want to offload a chunk of their inventory. Next up is card shows. Card shows are honestly one of the best places to find good deals on singles and slabs, but a lot of new sellers overlook them. You are dealing with real people face to face and making deals in person, which can give you a huge edge if you know how to negotiate properly. Also as well, the first time you go to a show, I wouldn't even stress about doing any big deals. Use your time here to introduce yourself to other sellers. What you'll notice is you'll see the same vendors at other card shows, and you'll be surprised how many deals come from those good relationships later on, especially if you go to a lot of card shows yourself. Some of our best deals were made this way, and we still to this day get a lot of stock from vendors that we have a strong relationship with. Again, try and buy in bundles. Vendors will tend to give you a better deal the more product you buy off them, whether that's singles or slabs. You're way more likely to get under market pricing the more you buy at once. The benefit of card shows as well is the trading. If you have a load of graded cards or sealed product that you manage to get for a really good price, you can often use that to trade towards other products with vendors. I often just take a load of cards that I've graded myself that I don't necessarily want to keep, and then I trade them up towards cards that I actually want in my collection or ones that I want to sell. And I actually do pretty well out of it. One final place to find products is actually today's video sponsor, Misprint. Misprint is basically like StockX for Pokemon. It's a marketplace and price database built specifically for graded and sealed Pokemon cards, and I've genuinely been using it more and more lately. If you've ever felt the pain of trying to quickly check the price of cards at a card show by scrolling eBay listings, you'll know just how long that takes. But with Misprint, you can literally just type in the card and instantly see real-time bids, ask price, and sales data. I've been using it quite a lot recently with trading at events. Probably my favorite part too is that you can leave standing bids on products, so you're not sat waiting for auctions to end or being sniped last minute. You literally just set the price that you're willing to pay for the card and then you walk away. If someone accepts, then you get a deal. It's super easy. For sellers too, you can use the slab scanner tool to snap a photo of one of your graded cards and list it instantly, which is a huge time save. And finally, the fees are really fair too. Misprint only takes 7% plus payment processing fees compared to the 13 to 15% taken on other platforms, so you get to keep more of what you make. If you want to sign up for free and try it yourself, you can click the link in the description to get yourself $5 off your first purchase. Plus, you'll be supporting the channel as well. So big thanks to Misprint for sponsoring this video. Next up is Japanese product, and when you're first starting out, this can feel pretty daunting, but when you do figure out where to get it, it's actually quite easy. Now, your first thought is going to be, why don't we just order it from a Japanese card store? But a lot of Japanese card stores actually have distribution contracts that prohibit international sales. If they get caught shipping overseas, they risk getting blacklisted, so they don't take the risk. So you have to find yourself a reseller. You can find a lot of Japanese resellers on Instagram, seems to be where they all live, but the important thing to do is your research. You are going to be potentially sending quite a lot of money to a random person and then hoping that the product turns up a few weeks later. So yeah, it is pretty scary at first. What I'd recommend is starting small. So just do a couple of boxes as a test order at first. Check their followers and tagged posts as well. If they're followed by other credible people like sellers or creators, then it's usually a good sign. And finally, most legit sellers are gonna have their feedback and reviews in story highlights. So just check those out and make sure that they're trustworthy. One thing that people often forget as well is import charges. If you're in UK or Europe, chances are you're gonna get hit with a VAT bill when your package actually lands with you. So use an online calculator to get a rough estimate of what that's going to be before you buy it. And last up in this section is English product. This is what most people try and jump in and get started with, but in my opinion, it's probably one of the hardest ones to make good money on. The problem is right now is that everyone is trying to sell the same stuff. So you have stores, streamers, resellers, all trying to move the same packs. So unless you're getting yours cheaper than everyone else, your margins are going to be small or non-existent. Now, if you're just grabbing some product from retail just to test the waters, that's fine. But if you're serious about turning this into a proper business, you're going to need to figure out where you're going to get stock from more reliably, and retail stores is not it. Distributors. This is where you're going to get the best pricing, but you're very quickly going to realize that in this game, getting a distributor is pretty much impossible right now. Unless you have a physical store and you've been on that list for ages, there's pretty much a 0% chance that you're going to get anything from them. And their application locations have been closed for months now. So again, you're gonna want to find a wholesaler. The best way to do that again would be Instagram. I'm saying that quite a lot now, but many vendors actually do wholesaling themselves too. So you can build up some relationships with them and get product that way. Also, if you're good friends with your local brick and mortar store, you can probably chat to them and possibly work with them on working out a deal where you buy product off them regularly at a rate that works for them. This is genuinely one of the best options out there, and I think it's super slept on. We've also found a lot of success working with people overseas in places like the US and Canada, but the only problem with this is that you're gonna be expected to take a lot more product off them at once, not just a box here and there. Moving on to pricing your products. Now, this is where things get really tricky, especially with how volatile the market is. To make money here, you have to be really careful. If you start pushing things too far, you're gonna catch yourself a lot of heat. Like, the word scalper gets thrown around a lot in this community. But one thing, regardless of how volatile the market is margins. Most sealed product is already so close to market price that once you factor in things like fees and taxes, there's barely anything left in the deal afterwards, unless you're creative. This is where a platform like Whatnot comes in, where we're able to make a margin on our products, even with product costs and fees, because we're creative in the way that we sell the product. So we run things like breaks, for example. So if we bought 151 packs at £14 a pack, and we want to make a 30% margin, we'll say every £90 added to the break adds 5 packs to the break, pricing each pack at around £18. This is just for example purposes. Obviously, there's fees and stuff like that that I'm not accounting for here, but you get the idea. Then we'll sell each spot on the break as an auction, and the spots being different Pokemon, for example. So in 151, the spots could be Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, you get the idea. Then if we pull those cards from the packs that we open, whoever got that spot gets to keep them. So we're kind of crowdsourcing a pack opening, if that makes sense, and our margin is already baked in. People pay for the packs this way because they get to open way more packs and have a much better chance of hitting the spot that they won in comparison to if they bought the packs themselves to open. So the buyer gets a better chance at hitting the big cards. They get way more packs open than if they bought the packs themselves, and hopefully an entertaining stream. And what we get is our margin, way better engagement than just opening packs for one person. We get to open it for like 30 to 40 people at a time, and we move a lot more product. That's just one stream format as well. There's so many different ones, and that's why we focus on live stream selling for our business. If you're going the route of just flipping products, you're gonna have a hard time making that margin, and you are gonna annoy people if you're just buying all the product to flip for a profit. So in that case, it really is about the price that you buy at. That is where you're gonna make your margin. How much profit you need to make as well largely comes down to your overheads. We're quite lucky that right now at Grail, we don't really have that many overheads. We work out of our house. We don't have a flashy office or employees to pay for. But in the future, when we do have employees, we'll obviously have to think about the volume in which we're selling at. Okay, so the final part of this video is marketing. You've got everything you need to start selling Pokemon, but now you need eyes on your products. How are we gonna do it? This really comes down to what platform you decide to sell on. eBay, for example, you don't really need to do a lot of marketing because they do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But for Whatnot and Shopify, you have to do a little bit more yourself. These platforms don't really promote you as much, so you're gonna need to build your own audience. And the bigger your brand is outside the platform, usually the more money you're gonna make on the platform. So how can you market yourself on the different platforms? eBay is mainly around optimization, so you just have to get your listing right. Things like your title, description, and having great images. That alone will boost you right up the search results and get your listing in front of more buyers. Whatnot. I've already said this, but start posting content. Like now, build up an audience outside of Whatnot alongside your streams. That is the best way to do it. You can, of course, build up an audience using things like giveaways and being as active on the platform as possible. But due to the fact there's not really any social posting functionality in the app, the only way you're gonna be in front of customers is by being live. So if you are gonna go the native Whatnot route, I would just suggest putting together a highly active streaming schedule. Even try going live more than once a day if you can, and running really interesting live streams with very generous giveaways at first to reel people in. Then you can back it up with content. So just make the best short form content you can. Try and fill a gap that no one is filling. Take Deep Pocket Monster, for example. He's made single pack openings fun by just adding a jingle to the start of the thing. And it's even bringing in people that don't like Pokemon. They're still sitting there watching it. So I'm not saying copy that, but find a gap and fill it. Once you have got yourself a little audience on there, it does become easier to grow as you consistently go live to the same regular people, and it kind of just snowballs from there. It is one of my favorite platforms though, as you can probably already tell, so it's definitely worth putting the time in here, 100%. Shopify. Yeah, said this before, this is going to be really tough. You can experiment here with running Facebook and TikTok ads to try and drive traffic to your website, but the problem is your margins. Unless you're finding a way of getting product really cheap that allows you to be able to spend 10 to 20 quid on acquiring a customer, then it's not really viable. I guess you could look at it from a lifetime value point of view. Maybe you lose money on the first purchase, but they do return later on more organically, then I guess it could work. But again, in reality, definitely the best way to drive traffic is organically. Your only real investment then is your time in making the videos. So if it means acquiring more customers for some of your time, I'm going to be taking that option every single day. Before I wrap this up, if you're someone who is serious about building a real business in the Pokemon space, I've just launched a private Discord community, and it's built just for people like you who want to build something long-term. Whether you are building your own store, going live on Whatnot, building a brand, this is the place for you. Inside, I'm sharing my verified suppliers, useful resources like guides and equipment lists, and I'll be dropping real-life advice that I've learned from building my own Pokemon business. There's a community chat where you can connect with others, buy, sell, and trade with other members. And if you ever want to book a one-to-one call with me, you can do that in the server too. It's also going to be regular giveaways for members as well. So if you want to join, you can head over to the membership tab on my channel to sign up, or click the link in the description. If this video has helped you out at all, please consider liking and subscribing. This one has taken a long time to put together, so I'll catch you in the next one.